Hey guys, today I want to talk about the serious mental health repercussions that can occur when someone retires. Doesn't matter if they're retiring early or if they're 80 years old. As a psychiatrist, I see time and time again patients are super excited about retirement, and they have a period of euphoria for a couple months, and then very commonly they start falling into a deep depression that is not well treated by medication. Like, pills do not touch this type of depression in my experience. This post retirement depression can be very difficult to treat. And essentially what happens is, people are really excited to retire. They have a period where they are just relieved. They relax a lot. They get up late. They watch movies, do this or that. And then slowly they start feeling apathetic, lethargic, anhedonic. Their sleep gets disrupted, and they become really melancholic. And I've tried all sorts of medication changes for this type of depression, and I've never found medications to really modulate this specific flavor of depression. And I've found 3 risk factors in my personal experience that appear to predict if someone is susceptible to post-retirement depression. Number 1 is easy, which is a past history of clinical depression. Number 2 is a lack of social structure or social connection. These patients often live alone. They could be divorced, single, whatever it is. They live alone in an apartment or a house. And number 3, and this one is probably the most important, is they lack purpose in their life. Another way to describe this is they don't really have any meaningful hobbies or goals that they have. And this third risk factor, I think, really explains this phenomenon that any other mental health professional will tell you is a thing, this post-retirement depression. So even if we hate our job, luckily I don't hate my job, so I use we kind of rhetorically, but even as humans and as working class citizens, if we hate our job, the job still provides immense mental health benefits, even if the net effect of our job is negative. Even if it's a very stressful or toxic job, there's still things about that job that render positive mental health benefits. I'm talking about a set schedule, so your sleep and your circadian rhythm is more likely to be intact and healthy and consistent. Another one is structure. You know what you have to do every day. You have to wake up, you have to do this, that, you have to go to work, you have to come home from work. Another one is social connection, social experiences, social exposure, whatever, people that you're exposed to at work. You talk to them, you might bond with them, laugh with them, argue with them. And all of these things, once you retire, might be gone. Right? So there's lots of triggers for clinical depression that are well known that it can occur after you retire, right? If your sleep becomes disrupted and your circadian rhythm, which is the biological clock or software in your brain that tells your brain when it's supposed to sleep, when it's supposed to be up, It's the thing that controls when and how much melatonin is secreted from your pineal gland, when and how much cortisol is secreted starting at about 6 in the morning, right? This can become disrupted if you suddenly don't have a need to go to bed or get up at a specific time. So disruption in circadian rhythm is a well-known risk factor and trigger or precipitator of a clinical depressive disorder like major depressive disorder, right? So, and when people retire, that might have been their main social exposure, right? And this goes back into the second risk factor I was talking about, like people that are single and they live alone and maybe they don't have any friends around. Right now, their social exposure went from Monday through Friday to potentially zero, right? And another benefit about a job is if someone is prone to rumination, which is a huge risk factor and common symptom of depressive disorders and anxiety disorders, now you have all the time in the world to ruminate about the things that you find depressing or stressful, right? And if someone has OCD or something similar, now they have all the time in the world for those obsessions to start creeping back in full force. So, and a job, unfortunately for a lot of people, is their identity. It should never be that way. You should never draw your identity from your job or your profession. That's very dangerous. But that happens all the time. So when people retire, they might find that their identity has disappeared. Their circadian rhythm has gone to hell in a handbasket. Their social life is non-existent. And there's no structure. There's no purpose. There might be no more meaning in their life. And just like it's dangerous to draw your identity from your profession, even if you're like a world-class scientist or, this well-respected neurosurgeon or, whatever, it's very dangerous to make your identity or make your job the main meaning or purpose that you have in your life. No matter how great that job is, it's very dangerous to make that your main source of meaning and purpose. So what can be done for this specific brand of depression that, at least in my clinical experience, doesn't respond to pills? There is one treatment that I have found that is effective, and one only, and it is prescribing a part-time job. And I've had many patients who retired, became deeply depressed and apathetic and hopeless, and medication changes didn't do anything. We tried all sorts of things. We tried just routine psychotherapy with like a counselor. The only thing that I've found to work is prescribing a part-time job. And I have patients that take my treatment recommendations seriously and they get a job at my recommendation, and it works like a charm, right? All of those triggers for depression have now been reversed, right? They have to get up at the same time. They have to go to bed at the same time every night. So circadian rhythm is back online, right? Now they have social contact. They have, a routine. They have something that they know they have to do. They have something that they can look forward to doing, even if, we don't want to go to work every day. So yeah, that is the treatment that I have found, and that's the treatment that I recommend to my patients. If they get depressed after retiring, I tell them to go back to work. And it doesn't matter what the job is. Ideally, it's one that's low stress, something that's fun and enjoyable. I have found no correlation between the type of job or how much money it draws in, and or how prestigious it is. I've never found a connection to those things and whether or not it's efficacious at reversing their depression. I've had patients just get a part-time job in retail, working at Hobby Lobby for 20 hours a week. It doesn't take much. You don't have to go back 40 hours a week. It could be, 10, 15, 20 hours a week. It's enough to reverse those precipitators of their post-retirement depression, though. Now, are there other potential treatment options besides going back to work? Because honestly, who wants to go back to work after retiring? I'm sure there are. I feel very confident that there are other treatment options that would work, but it would have to be things that replace the things that you were getting from work. So, like, if someone doesn't want to go back to work, I think the things that would be effective is, finding ways to have a social life, finding something that gives you a routine, get your circadian rhythm in check, have a, pretty strict bedtime and wake time. If someone is depressed after retiring and they absolutely don't want to go back to work, even if it's like a chill part-time job, really the best the thing that they have to do is they need to find meaning and purpose and goals. They need to find hobbies. They need to find long-term interests. So, like, let me give myself as an example. Let's say in 30 years I retire and I develop post-retirement depression, but I absolutely don't want to go back to work. I would find things that I love doing that give me something to look forward to every day. So, for example, I've been writing and recording music, since I was 15 years old. I was actually in a band in high school called the May Reunion. I'll actually drop a link in the description. It's still on Spotify and iTunes and all of that. We probably have like 0 monthly listeners since this all happened like over a decade ago. But like, I would maybe start another project with music in my home recording studio. I would, plan out an album that I wanted to, write, record, mix, master, produce, and then release to the world. See, that would be a way to stave off depression. The possibilities for me and you guys, if we retire and we feel depressed, are endless. You just have to find meaning and purpose and sprinkle in some social interaction. Get a routine down. Find a thing that gives you a spring in your step when you wake up in the morning. Find a reason to excitedly jump out of bed at 6 a.m., even if you're retired and you don't have anywhere you have to go. And regardless of the cause of depression, whether it's retiring and not having, a life outside of work, whether it's completely endogenous, like you just have a biological depression, whether it's due to stressors or PTSD, regardless of the cause of depression, a key risk of depression is unaliving yourself. I use that term to hopefully avoid the penalties or censorship that YouTube applies to people talking about serious topics. So yeah, retirement can literally, lead to someone terminating their own life. It sounds crazy, but I've had plenty of people that start having these thoughts after they retire because their entire life essentially starts slowly dissolving. Their social life is gone. Their routine is gone. So in a very real sense, retirement can kill you. And there's been famous cases of famous, very successful, very wealthy people that end up, terminating their own life after they retire because they feel like there's no more purpose in their life. So in short, in my experience, post-retirement depression is a absolutely real phenomenon. In my experience, it feels different than just like garden variety major depressive disorder, even though that's usually what it's going to be technically or formally diagnosed as. In my experience, personally, I'm not saying this is true for everyone or every situation, but in my experience, medication changes don't work. because pills cannot give you a social life. They can't give you a routine. They can't make life meaningful. They can't give you hobbies, right? The risk factors are a previous history of depression, a lack of social support or structure, and a lack of meaning, purpose, hobbies, goals, and identity and routine outside of work. Those are the risk factors I've found. And the treatment that I've found that works is prescribing a part-time job. But I am confident that other things that would probably work just as well is just replacing the things that the job was giving you. Make sure you have a social life, make sure you have hobbies, goals, and dreams that you're actively looking forward to. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.